Okay, so Lupe, Mr. Fiasco, if you will, decided to drop a track produced by Kaelin Ellis and featuring Virgil Abloh. The song is titled Shoes. So, upon first impressions, when you hear a song named Shoes and Virgil, who is associated with shoes, you should know this by now. That you would assume, oh, it's just a song about shoes. But then you see Lupe, and it's never that straightforward with Lupe. So, let's get into it. Let's break this down. Verse 1. Been standing in line since Thursday. I heard a rumor they might be dropping them early. Should have them just in time for your birthday, a relevant holiday affair. Got one of those 3-leg folding chairs. I am what you call prepared for the camp out. Evening brings the battery-powered lamps out. Warm clothes but blanket case get cold. Corn chips and basic staples to hold. Hunger over till Uber Eats is ordered. Maybe pizza or quesadillas and sopa. Got a little cooler with assorted waters and sodas. Cinnamon sugar coated malasada, the odor. Makes me the envy of the line, if not the enemy, not my energy. I'll be spending plenty of time inside the books that I bought. Got audios and regulars, quite the party goer and reveler. Now, that first line, or first verse, can still be more seen as just, he's going out to camp out for shoes. Nothing crazy. However, again, it is Lupe, so you have to look into this. The point at which you can kind of sense there's something else that he's trying to say is in the line, I'll be spending plenty of time. Because in the song he added a little bit more inflection to that line. So it's safe to assume that he is using that line to allude to the excessive jail time that black people often face when arrested for similar or lesser crimes. Moving on, we have a little interlude from Virgil. So on today's to-do list is to design a pair of running shoes. The goal is, as always in my work, to add emotion to inanimate objects. So, and this goes into Lupe's next verse. This Virgil part didn't seem to add much right now, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Release day is finally upon us, more celebratory than the former, but mixed with bittersweet vibes, most certainly switched to different beats. More policed than Justinian's Byzantine Christian beliefs. There is a risen rhythm, you can feel it all in the streets, like a marathon or a parade. Poets might want to pull their pens out like grenades, or that model for a year and a half, and write down all the tears and the laughs. He shot across the bow of the tyrannous class. Quote from man standing on float. The whole event is just biggest fan channeling dope. I mean, one just feels privileged and esteemed, inwardly serene and spiritually clean. Even the line feels like a team, in stark opposition to a competition for things. This gets a little bit deeper. It starts to peel away a little bit more of the layers that most people probably would have just been like, whatever, upon first listen. Release day. You're out of jail. More celebratory than the former, which is unfortunate because lots of times people get arrested multiple times. And that's messed up. The line where he's saying more policed than Justinian's Byzantine Christian beliefs. Could be talking about house arrest, could be talking about probation, could be talking about parole. All of those times you're basically being monitored, heavily. You're not allowed to make one misstep. And the risen rhythm that you can feel in the streets, like a marathon or a parade, that is most certainly related to the protests that are still happening, but no one's talking about. Poets might want to pull their pens out like grenades. Lupe is one of these. He is using his words to kind of not make a scene, but to draw attention to what's happening. But he could also just be talking about all that stuff with No Name and J. Cole from about a month ago now. We get another snippet from Virgil with that. These shoes that we are about to design with words starts with a soul. Not a soul, but a soul, you know? What touches you to earth. That's floating in nowhere. The soul. Again, this is kind of just abstract. Like, it's kind of weird that Lupe put Virgil in here and like let him say these things and like at these points in the song, but it's gonna make sense, believe me. This then goes into Lupe's third verse. With touching signs of equality to match, white kid at the front let me go first because I was black. Said it was only right. He was used to having head starts his entire life. Maybe it was time to step aside like trilobites. Touching, I never forget it like riding bikes. The ordeal starts to spring feelings like guiding light. Permanent villains go about chillin', they psychic fights. Nice. And to a buyer's delight, you're limited to 2, so that means I'm buying them twice. 1 pair to wear and 1 pair on ice. Aftermarket speculations will surely hike up the price. Call that all in the plans. Feeling like Mike with a ball in my hand. Swear to God, it's like the best game he ever played. I get to wear the first pair possibly ever made. This one gets a little bit more vague again. It's pretty obvious at the top where the white kid in front of him let him go first. Because the white kid feels bad. And Lupe doesn't really make a point to say, like, anything bad about this. Like, it's, like, cool. Like, yeah, I'll go in front of you. And this is something that he will remember. And I mean, this whole thing isn't really as easy. So, permanent villains go about chillin', they psychic fights. That, to me, is permanent villains meaning some sort of, not higher power, but like, just something that's always there and not quite omniscient or omnipotent, but like something that's just there and always bad. I'll let you guys figure out what I mean with that. Then we goes to nice and to a buyer's delight. You're limited to 2, so it means I'm buying them twice. 1 pair to wear, 1 pair on ice. That one I feel is a little bit more straightforward again. Like, cool, I'm gonna buy 2 because gotta rock 1 and 1 and gotta store 1. But the next part where he says aftermarket speculations will surely hike up the price, that's probably a commentary on capitalism and capitalist society and how somehow, like, the rich are continuing to get rich even though the economy is taking a shit. This then takes us into another Virgil snippet, you could say. What does that soul look like? It's soft to run on, but tough enough to withstand the reality of the ground or the reality of the context that we're living in. That's the soul. Let's just call it black. Starting to make sense, huh? Moving on to Lupe's 4th and last verse. I get applause as I step outside the pop-up. The shopper resembles the unfinished house he was in before they shot us. We fell down, then we got back up, pick pock up, pick nip up. This is the type of tripping that scuff kicks up. Traditionally, creases was styled to refuse, but now they represent every mile in your shoes. Any mud you get on your soul gets toweled and removed. It's like I'm retracing every trial. No, it took strength. Giant steps, flowers growing out of the footprints. Liberation, here's your invitation. It's a relay race continuation. Get the baton and keep bringing it back. That string theory means we'll keep getting attached. Last thing, this is something out of a sight. Even when you take them off, they keep running for your life. This makes a little bit more sense, right? So, when you get the shoes, everyone's gonna applaud you because, congrats, you were all in line. You were a part of a team. You got the shoes. but then it kind of snaps him, like Lupe snaps back into reality. Like, this is a huge, momentous occasion to him at that time. But then, like, looking back on it, it's like, yo, this shop, it's kind of run down. Like, it ain't nothing special. Very similar to the shop, or the house, that Ahmaud Arbery was shot at, or shot for going through. Now, I'm not going to get into that right now because that's been discussed. He should not have been killed. We fell down, then we got back up. Then we got up. It's him basically saying, whenever a black person gets shot down, the community gets up. And I sighed because it sucks that that's still happening. Like, people shouldn't just be getting killed for no reason. And I'm pretty sure everyone who's going to be watching this is in agreement. Like, you don't do these things. Like, pickpocket, big nip up. They have passed. He's relating Nipsey to Tupac because of all the stuff that Nipsey was trying to do with the LAPD and with, like, just prison reform and all the good that he was doing in the community, which was very similar to what Tupac was doing. Creases was styled to refuse, but now they represent every mile in your shoes. I still try. I don't care about creases anymore, but, like, because wear your kicks and stuff. But this is talking about, like, for example, say he was able to get these two pairs of shoes, and then he gets shot and killed. He didn't even have a chance to put a crease in those shoes. Like, every crease is like a mile in your shoes. Like, it's like like a page in your book, and, like, it's just a part of your life. And when all these people are being killed, like, they aren't allowed to continue that. Like, there will be no more creases. There will be no more pages in their book. Like, that's it. Like, the mud that's on the soles, like, sure, that gets removed. Like, all the bad stuff, like, that gets removed. But, like, you still have the creases to remind you of, like, the process that you've been through, like, everything that you've survived, like, just all that. The last line, even when you take them off, they keep running for your life. This isn't about a particular pair of shoes anymore. This is about shoes in general, like, as a concept. Even if you die, you can, like, you're going to continue on because someone is going to remember you. But this is also in relation to getting shot for running because you're a black person. That last verse is then followed by a kind of long form sort of talk by Virgil. So let's take what he said before, because that's all part of it. So starting at the top, so on today's to-do list is to design a pair of running shoes. The goal is, as always in my work, is to add emotion to inanimate objects. So with that, these shoes that we are about to design with words starts with a soul. Not a soul, but a soul. You know, what touches you to earth. That's floating in nowhere. The soul. What does the soul look like? It's soft to run on, but tough enough to withstand the reality of the ground, or the reality of the context that we're living in. That's the soul. Let's just call it black. You know, can withstand multiple beatings by the ground, but is tough enough to continue on. That's the soul. Now there's an upper on top of that soul. That upper is made of leather, or maybe knit, or maybe both, you know? That soul and upper combined by stitches. leaves for a dynamic enclosure around the foot. There's a tongue. There's even shoelaces. You know, those shoelaces they're literally as elastic as a leather band, but tough enough, or tough as links of steel. Let's call it chain links. So here we have the shoe taking shape. There's a logo on the side. Fill in the blank with your favorite one. They're all man-made. It's all good. But this shoe, these Air Ahmauds or these Air Arberies, are starting to take shape, you know? They connect man and earth. They allow you to run. That running is freedom, accelerate heart rate by design through design. Air Ahmaud, Air Arbery. What color are these shoes? The uppers of these shoes, maybe white, maybe black. Pick your favorite. But you know, the world's black and white anyways. So might as well limit the whole color palette to that. Signed Virgil Abloh in quotes, of course. Oh yeah, there's a red zip tie on this thing. It makes it our own. It's tied to a history of art that's now copyrighted 2020. I think that's how he ended it. The lyric page doesn't show it on there anymore, or at all. So, throughout the song, Virgil was adding these, like he's basically building a shoe through the song. But the shoe isn't a shoe. This shoe is people, essentially. Like, you have these people who are just walking Earth, essentially. They're held on by shoelaces, which are elastic. The elasticity is basically like the way that people are able to bend and flex depending on what's happening to them and what's going on. Logo on the side doesn't matter. He says fill it with your favorite one. They're all man-made. It's all good. That's probably him kind of saying like, it really doesn't matter what brand it is. We're all people. Obviously he's saying this is, the thought of this is their Ahmauds or Air Arberies. Then we ask, what color are these shoes? Like, but you know, the world's black and white anyways, so we might as well limit the color palette to that. That is, again, very much like referencing the like the more, just like the racial issues. Like, people are racist. It sucks. Like, again, he's basically saying like, well, y'all only care about black and white anyway, so we might as well just stay to that. Like, there's so much more to it, and that's kind of what Virgil's alluding to here. And then the red zip tie. That is the blood. That is very on the nose. That is the blood that is spilled in this community. Now, this whole track was essentially just a giant metaphor for shoes and like relating that to, well, I was going to say what's going on in the world and what has happened recently, but it's really more specifically about Ahmaud Arbery and how he was murdered for jogging. I really do appreciate this song, and I'm not surprised Lupe took the time to write this, because Lupe is the type of person who will say stuff about this. I'm sure some people are going to be like, oh, he shouldn't have said anything, or like, he didn't say the right things, or he didn't say enough. But the fact of the matter is, like I've said this before, we don't need like celebrities. We don't have to look to these people for like information, or like, we don't have to look to them like as teachers. Like, we don't have to look at them to like educate us. Like we should be taking those things into our own hands, and we don't need people to say stuff all the time. Like, Because, like Dave Chappelle said, the streets is talking. Like, what are you going to look at a celebrity for that the streets haven't said already? I'm sure I missed a bunch of stuff that Lupe mentioned, because that's the type of person Lupe is. He won't just leave it at a metaphor that you can get after 1 hour of listening. He's going to make it a metaphor that you start to understand 3 years later. Like, it's very straightforward this time around, but there are still a lot of things in there. Like, I don't know enough about Justinian, Byzantine Christian beliefs. I'm assuming it means, like, just overly policing and, like, constantly watching people like a hawk, just based on stuff around it. But, like, I don't know for sure. And, like, what does a shot across the bow of the Tyrannus class mean? Like, I don't know what that means. So in the comments below, let me know, like, what your interpretations of this track are, and, like, what I missed, because I'm sure there's stuff I missed. I mean, actually, if we go back to the top, like, when he's ordering food, like, these are all, like, cultural, like, different foods, like, not the typical, like, hamburger, you know? Like, maybe he's like, oh, I'm bringing in all these other groups to basically, like, acknowledge, like, these, like, there's more than just black and white. Who knows? But yeah, let me know in the comments, like, what your interpretation is, because I'm sure I missed something. But yeah, also like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I like doing breakdowns, they're fun. Anyways, stay safe out there, and thank you for watching.